What she did is she would take her credit card and she would freeze it in a block of ice. So every time she wanted to buy something, she had to get that thing out and have it thaw. And that took a while, right? It took more than a few minutes. And just during that time, the emotion of wanting to buy whatever it is cools off, so to speak, and you're much less likely to do it. And you're much less likely to go, man, I have to go in my freezer, I have to get that thing out, I gotta set it in the sink and let it thaw, right? Your mind is going through that process, and that's starting to exhaust your like the writer in the other way for good. And you're like, no, we don't even want to deal with all of that. Just forget it. We'll buy whatever this is next time or something like that. That's a good way to use this to your advantage. All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today's topic is making changes easier. Now, we all know how in our day-to-day lives, in almost every interaction that we have in which we want to change from one habit to another, from one method of operating or just method of doing things to another, how change can be very hard. So today's topic is about making those changes by making the change easier, or making little changes, that way you make your big change easier. Okay, so let's just jump right into this. A lot of this topic is covered in the book Switch, by the way, by Dan and Chip Heath. It's literally right here in the middle of this ever-growing tower of books I have here. So this whole book is on this sort of topic. It's about breaking habits. It's about breaking the status quo, and in not just your own habits, but maybe in your industry, maybe in your profession, like your job or wherever you're employed. Maybe it is just your own, with how you approach dating people, how you approach saving money, how you approach maybe cutting back on addictions you might have, or just habits that might be harming your life in general, and how to double down on the ones that are doing well for you, serving you well. This is actually a very, very deep topic, and something that most people, almost all people throughout the course of their life, struggle with and want advice on, and want like an insider's look at how, man, I just want to make some changes. I just want to kick that habit. I just want to become that new and better, more evolved person, more evolved version of myself. And so this book and this whole topic on change is about that. So let's talk about the first topic. This is a major theme that is covered in many psychology books, in many self-help books, in a lot of business books, and a lot of other media, other like published media. And it is the concept of a rider and an elephant. So you got an elephant, right? Like a big animal, that kind of thing, like an actual elephant is the metaphor that they like to use. And then you have a rider, right? Like a person. I don't know, they can think like maybe at a circus, or maybe there are tribes that ride elephants or something like that. But a rider, right? Like you would ride a horse. So you got the elephant and you have the rider. And they both represent a different part of your, let's say, motivation, your mechanisms for having any sort of inclination to do things, or to even break old habits. So let's start with the rider. So the rider in this metaphor is your conscious mind, your analytical mind, your ability to like size up a situation and say, this is what I want out of this situation, or I would like to improve this, or I'd like to reach these people, or I would like to cut back on this habit, or whatever the case might be. All that analytical thinking, and the things that you take the steps towards creating a better life for yourself, that's all like writer based. So the writer is very, yes, analytical. They're very practical. They think things through. They're very like cerebral in that regard. They deal with facts, they deal with plans, that sort of thing. So, the elephant, on the other hand, is very emotional, right? That's like your emotional mind, your emotional tendencies. And the elephant, being emotional, deals with things like how do they make you feel, like your true motivation. And as we all know, motivation on a day-to-day basis is finite, right? It can run out. There's only so much of it. So your motivation as that energy that you have to say, okay, we're gonna make the right decision on this. We're gonna I don't know, eat well. We're not gonna snack so much. We're not gonna sit down and watch TV. We're not going to just whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. But as you know, the farther the day goes along, or the farther you go in making difficult decisions throughout a certain time period, the less and less of that energy that you have left in order to keep making those high functioning decisions, those righter decisions. So what happens is the elephant, that emotional mind, does things like this. It says, oh, we're tired. We don't want to go to the gym. Oh, we're exhausted. We've been seeing so many people today. We don't want to go out and get groceries. We don't want to go and fill the car up with gas. We don't want to pick shifts up at work, or whatever the case is. We don't want to cook. We want to just get some food ordered and delivered to us. Okay? Now, all of those things, I'm not giving any sort of like judgment on whether they're right or wrong. Any of that stuff is fine in moderation, yes. But what the fact of the matter is, the later in the day it becomes, or the later in a certain block of time that we're talking about, it becomes, the harder it is to have that rider continue to push you towards your goals and keep the motivation with them. Then the elephant starts to take over. The elephant is the one who doesn't want to go to the gym, doesn't want to do those, I don't know, the one last set of reps, that doesn't want to save money, the elephant doesn't want to cook. They want to have that fast food. They want that KFC and that, I don't know, McDonald's and Burger King or whatever it is. That right there, that's the distinction. You know, like when you get off of work and you've had a day that was kicking your ass, that at the end of that, you don't want to do much. You don't want to do the laundry. You don't want to do this and that. And like, so it gets harder. So this is what this is about. Elephant and rider. Here's the issue. As the rider gets exhausted, right, your analytical mind, the elephant starts to take over. And this is why everyone says, like, oh, doing things like quitting smoking, like spending less money, like going and trying to eat better and exercise or invest in yourself. Those things are hard, and people usually fail to stick with those habits in the way that they want to. Not usually because they're lazy, it's because they become exhausted. I did another video on here a couple weeks ago about laziness versus exhaustion. And a lot of laziness is actually misdiagnosed, I would say, as lazy. No, a lot of exhaustion is misdiagnosed as laziness, because you look lazy, but really it's like you're getting exhausted. You have to do different things, like do difficult things earlier in the day. That's one very practical thing you can do. If there's something really hard to do that thing first. You will never, almost never, have to motivate yourself to eat a quart of ice cream or something. So, or to, like, I don't know, cash your paycheck or whatever it is that you need to do but you like doing, or you like it much more than the chores that you got going on. Those things should be put towards the front, because the fun stuff, the like I said, all the desserts of life, you're not gonna have to motivate yourself. So don't put those things in the front. Here's a pretty good example of this that actually comes out of this book. So things that people aren't going to forget in a lot of stores, you see this in grocery stores a lot, they'll put as far away from the entrance as possible. For example, milk. You ever notice how milk is pretty far from the entrance? It's all the way in the back of a store. It's for this kind of reason, actually. It's because people aren't going to forget to get milk. If they need to get milk, they're almost on every trip. People who drink milk get some. So that's not something that's easily forgotten. But all the other things in the grocery store are more easily forgotten. I don't know what else you're buying, maybe pasta or maybe bread. Bread is one of those things too that's usually farther back because it's and eggs, right? Those are those necessities that people kind of get and they don't forget about. But like some of the other stuff, just think about it. Whatever's not in the back, it's nearer to the front. And the reason they do that is because they know people are going to not leave with milk and bread and eggs and stuff like that. So they put them in the back. That way you spend longer in the store. You have to pass by everything that you might not even have come in there for. And that keeps it in your mind. And then you have to do this. You have to pass by them again as you're leaving with your milk. So this kind of example can be used, or this can be applied in your life to things that you want to like I was saying, the hard stuff, put it in the front that of your day. And that easy stuff, the stuff you know you're not going to forget about, you put that in the back with the milk, right? And that's how, and you structure your day that way. And that's one good trick to getting more done. Because eventually you get exhausted and you might not even remember there are other things to do. But there are some things in your life, like, I hope you're probably not going to forget to, I don't know, take a shower. Some people do that at the beginning of the day. Some people do it at the end of the day. Some people do it in both times. All right, but if you're somebody who have a lot of other things, for example, going on, you're probably not going to forget to take a shower or brush your teeth before you go to bed. Hope not. So that's okay to leave at the end of the day. Or things like you're not going to forget to catch the next episode of some TV that you're watching, some Netflix or something. So you don't need to put that at the end of your at the beginning of your day because you're not going to forget to do it. All right, that's like going to sleep. You can put that at the end of your day like we all do because you're not going to forget to go to sleep. Probably. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's like, yeah, man, I forget to go to sleep because I'm so busy in this. Okay, well then, in your case, maybe that sleep needs to be put in the front of your day. This talk is about changing habits. It's about making the change easier. So there are other things we can do. So with the writer part of your mind, that writer energy, the analytical and practical and the data loving and the plan loving part of your brain, there are things that exhaust it though. They talk about in this book. One of the things is doing things too late that require a lot of cognitive ability. We just talked about that. Another thing is like having too many difficult things at one time. For example, they've done many studies to where if people like I think they did it with two like different ice cream stores, and one of them had like 6, 7, 8 flavors, and the other ice cream store had like 30. And they had people like buy ice cream that they wanted, and they sold a lot more in the situation to where there were 6 to 8 flavors versus the 30. Because when you have the 30, you have all these choices. You have all this overhead cognitively, and it bogs you down, and it makes it much more difficult for you to focus. And then that's when the writer gets tired. And here's where the metaphor continues. The writer has like reins, right? Like a you would drive a horse around or direct a horse with. Does that make sense? So there are reins on the elephant. But the elephant is this big beast, right? This big animal, and if it wants to, it can go wherever it wants. But at least to begin with, for the most part, it tries to stay with the rider, and they work together. The problem is, as the rider gets more and more exhausted, the elephant can have its way much easier. It hardly even has to try. And doing things that exhaust the rider, like a lot of complex creative work, or going to work all day and then getting off work and having to grocery shop and go to the gym and do some chores at home and pay your bills and all that stuff, it gets harder. Do you see what I'm saying? Everybody knows what this is like. So there are things, as I said, that exhaust the writer. You want to stay away from as many of those complex situations as possible. Another thing to do is you can use this in the reverse, which is very nice. So if you're trying to break a habit, a lot of the times habits are difficult to break because of the environment you're in. I think I've spoken about this a couple of times on here, but like if you, let's say you're a compulsive spender, and you're like, okay, look, I really need to cut down on how much I'm spending and everything. One thing that I would do is on all of your devices, like just remove the links to your bank account and your credit cards on everything that is not absolutely necessary. So like, yeah, because you know, like Amazon or like other companies, and even your phone will have you have your credit card linked or whatever, and it's built in. So all you have to do is just log into a website, and it's already there. You don't even have to type your card in. So one thing you could do is remove it from those, to where every time you have to buy something, you actually have to go get your card, because that exhausts the writer. Every new step that you put in that equation makes it less and less likely that you're like, okay, you know what, just forget it, right? You see what I'm saying? And you won't as impulsively buy things because it takes a lot more work now to do so. If you've already done that, or you see yourself getting your credit card a lot online, take it and put it in your car or something. Put it in a drawer in a different room of your house. Put the thing farther away so that every time you have to use it, it's a pain in the ass to go and get it. There was a story in there about this lady who, I don't think a lot of people do this, not a lot of people, but there's a lot of like documentation of people, like memes and stuff of people doing this. But what she did is she would take her credit card and she would freeze it in a block of ice. So every time she wanted to buy something, she had to get that thing out and have it thaw. And that took a while, right? It took more than a few minutes. And just during that time, the emotion of wanting to buy whatever it is cools off, so to speak, and you're much less likely to do it. And you're much less likely to go, man, I have to go in my freezer, I have to get that thing out, I gotta set it in the sink and let it thaw. Right? Your mind is going through that process, and that's starting to exhaust your like the writer in the other way for good. And you're like, no, we don't even want to deal with all of that. Just forget it. We'll buy whatever this is next time or something like that. That's a good way to use this to your advantage. The elephant works similarly in its own thing. The elephant is about emotions, right? It's about like those wants and those that primal kind of instinct. Ooh, I want that box of donuts. Ooh, I want to just sit down and watch TV. I want to do whatever. Because your mind's together, like your brain itself knows that the more difficult things are, the more energy it uses. And biologically speaking, it wants to conserve as much of that energy as possible, just in case you get attacked by something and you need all that energy to escape and live. Now, that doesn't happen to people that much in this day and age compared to back tens of thousands of years ago, when this brain of yours was being created over tens of thousands of years. The past 50, 100, even 200 years that we have lived in with a lot more safety and a lot more convenience is nothing compared to all the time before that your brain has been fine-tuned over generations to not want to be lazy per se, but not want to expend energy ever as much as it can. And that's why the elephant is emotional about it. It makes you lose that motivation. It makes you be like, oh, I want to do this, and I want the desserts and the fried food and everything that's fast. Not because you're lazy, because you want to save energy. The elephant is doing that. But the writer you, that part of you that's like, hey man, we probably shouldn't be eating a bunch of donuts if we want to keep our health up. We don't want to be putting everything on credit cards and owing all this interest and not saving for a rainy day. We don't want to be doing other activities that are going to slip. Like, it's a slippery slope, right? And we're going to slide right into a lifestyle that's going to make our future worse. Okay? So our logical brain says those things, obviously. And then what happens? Then as you get tired during the day, because it's what happens, and then the elephant starts to take over, it starts to make those things so much easier, and you have no choice, pretty much, but to go along with it. But if you know that's going to happen, You take these measures to make changes so that the elephant, even when it takes over, it's so much harder for you to do something. Freeze your credit card, put it in your car, put that pack of cigarettes in your car or somewhere, or in your mailbox somewhere far away. So you got to go all the way out there every single time you want one. It's just a little easier. Put it in a safe so you have to crack the code every time. This makes sense. Move the stuff that's very important and is going to help you in life. Move those things to the front of your day, like I was saying, so that they get done. You're not going to forget to do the stuff you want to do. Trust me. So, that's the elephant in the rider. Now, there are some other things we can do here, especially when the elephant kind of gets in the way. It can get in the way early too. It could be in the beginning of the day. You got a strong rider still, but depending on the severity of the problem or the how grand and large the problem is, the elephant might still be able to be like, oh hell no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to just start doing something or stop doing something cold turkey. That's why people who just set their cigarettes down one day and say I'm never touching them again relapse a lot. There are some people that can do that, and I've known some of those people, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Most people can't do that, or they can do that with like one thing, and then there's 10 other things in their life they want to change, so they're almost helpless with those other ones because they're spending all of their energy focused on don't touch those cigarettes, or don't touch those donuts, or don't touch that credit card, or whatever it is. Guys, like I was saying, this is not a value judgment on anybody. I myself have had these issues and continue to. I'm not just an adult. I'm a human just like everybody else. Okay? So, and being an adult is sometimes a disadvantage because over your life, you have built these habits that have literally scratched like your brain in certain ways. It's like a record, you know, like when it goes around, it spins, and the scratchy part of it scratches it. It gets more of a groove, and it's easier for I don't know what it's called, but that pin thing that vibrates the record and makes the sound. It's easier for it to follow the grooves the more it scratches that record. Your brain is the same way. So the more you continue the same habits, farther and farther into adulthood especially, the more it becomes more ingrained like that. And your neurons literally will grow together in certain ways. And it takes time for them to detach like that and then grow in different ways and make new connections. There's a thing in psychology called the commitment consistency bias. It might also be called different things. That's what I have heard of, and that's what I call it. So basically what this means is it's like the more often and the more intensely you commit to things and over longer periods of time, the more likely you are to continue doing them. So what sounds like it's easier? If you've been eating a dozen donuts every weekend for the past 10 years, or you just started doing that 3 months ago, which person do you think is gonna have an easier time breaking that habit? Person that's been doing it for 10 years, every single weekend of their life. That's what, 520 weekends? Are there 52 weeks in a year? It's something like that. And so 52 weekends over 10 years is 520 weekends versus the person that's done it six months would be for 24 weekends in a row. Do you see? So the longer you stick with a habit, the more difficult it is, the more elephant focused it is, and the more power and fortitude your rider needs to take care of it. That's why I was saying those cold turkey situations are way too hard almost all of the time. Even if it's doing a cold turkey situation for something, so for a habit you want to pick up. We think cold turkey is just like, hey, I'm going to quit cold turkey, but you can commit cold turkey in a way if you think about it. Like, you're like, you know, people do this all the time. Right at the beginning of the year, every single year is when gyms have an influx of people signing up January because of those New Year's resolutions, because hey, it's a new year, I want a new me, I want to really get through this, and most of the people that sign up, they're gone in just a few weeks or something. They've already broken their new resolution. And why is that? Because they're trying to commit cold turkey, you know? not just quit something cold turkey, commit to something cold turkey, and that's very hard too. It's hard to just be like, okay, I'm gonna go to the gym 5 days a week, everybody. We're gonna get this done, and we're gonna be awesome. 6 months from now, we're gonna have some good results. 12 months from now, we're gonna have some really good results, or whatever it is. Once in a while, you get a person that can do it. But it usually takes some huge life-changing event or whatever to shock your system into being able to accept committing to something cold turkey is what I'll call that. Even though that might not be the correct term. But you see what I'm saying? It can be used for quitting or committing. And even the committing, if you don't start with small steps. And I have a video on here too about not skipping steps. You don't want to skip steps because when you do, you're not training that commitment consistency bias. You're just saying, okay, I'm just awesome now. That's not how that works. You can't just be like, okay, no ego. We're gonna go in there. We're gonna do what's right. You have to start with the small strokes. Like I said, if you're trying to go to the gym, this is what you should do. Yeah, get your membership. Okay, but don't be like, I'm gonna be in there 5 days a week, an hour a day. If you've never done that before, that is a quick way to fail. And when you fail, by the way, at something, that goes directly past the rider to the elephant, and the elephant freaks out and is like, oh, we never want to try that again because that didn't feel good, and we spent a hell of a lot of energy trying to do that in the first place. So you want to start off like maybe go 2 days a week. And if you have to go in there 5 days a week, I wouldn't do an hour every day. I would do 30 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes. It's better to start with just getting in the gym 15 minutes a day, even just 2 days a week. Okay? And just learn a couple of machines at a time, or learn a couple of different methods, just a few, and start small. And don't skip steps. Just go through it step by step. You get ahead, right? Because if you try that committing cold turkey approach, chances are it's going to fail, and then that's when the commitment consistency bias works in the opposite direction for you. Because basically, you're not doing this. You're not looking in the mirror and being like, hey man, I'm going to commit to failing at everything. Of course, nobody does that. But that is what your brain, like the elephant in your brain, is thinking. It's like, okay, we are now basically consistently committing with little things over and over and over to failing. Because every time I try to go in the gym, I fail. Every time I try to quit smoking, I fail. Every time I try to eat better, I fail. Every time I try to, I don't know, go and spend less money, I still walk out with a new gadget and more snacks and more and a subscription to something new that I don't give a damn about, or whatever it is. Do you see what I'm saying? And every single time that you fail, that you're committing more consistently to attracting that failure into your life, even though you're not trying to. So always be careful about those cold turkey situations for either. You know, that's a whole nother video on its own I probably should do, but I'll bring it up here that with changes, you want to start kind of small, okay? Especially when you start small, it's with small amounts of energy, small amounts of resources and money. You're less likely to hurt yourself if something goes wrong. You don't want to go into the gym. You don't want to be that person who puts 500 pounds on the bench press and trying to lift that your first time. Think about it. Wouldn't that be the stupidest thing you've ever heard? And you're gonna really hurt, if not kill yourself, doing that. So what you want to do is go in there and just start with the bar, just like pretty much everyone else does. I see big people who can bench 300-400 or whatever, and they'll come in there and they'll warm up with the bar. Nobody is going to laugh. If everybody thinks that, well, I gotta put something on it, if you can, that's fine. You don't want to start with your max, though, is what I'm saying. Start with the bar, get the maneuver down, just be comfortable laying there and going through the motion or whatever it is. You don't want to skip steps, okay? In certain parts of your life, in the gym, that could literally kill you. You don't want 500 pounds of steel falling onto your lungs and your heart or on your neck or whatever it is. So the same thing is true like with your money. You don't want to just go out there and like, okay, I need to be better with my money. I need to start investing and start investing every single cent that you make as disposable income, because that might kill you financially. You might get into some debt and have to declare bankruptcy or something. So remember not to skip steps. Change, you want to shrink the change down. They talk about this in their book Switch. This is it's either one of the chapters or it's just a recurring theme. It's called Shrinking the Change. This is what makes changes easier. Remember, it said shrinking the change, not go cold turkey in either direction, quitting or committing cold turkey. It doesn't say that. It's like shrink the change down. It's like, okay, if you want to, let's say you want to be a person who has invested wisely, let's just say 10 grand. You don't want to be like, okay, 10 grand, that's what I have to invest wisely. Let's start with savings. Savings is usually a little bit easier. For people in any sort of financial trouble, saving 10 grand is probably easier to think about than investing, because investing has a lot of components to it, and there we go, exhausting the writer. So if you're not there, let's not talk about that quite yet. Let's talk about saving. We're not talking about saving 100 grand. Let's just say 10 grand. And if you want, knock a zero off of that and say 1 grand. Okay? You can start as small as you want, as long as you are continually on the rise. That's the important part, that commitment consistency. So if you want to save 10 grand, you don't want to get your paycheck at that month and be like, oh man, freaking out, like I can only put 500 of this into a savings account. How am I ever going to get to that 10 grand of savings in the bank? You don't want to be feeling like that. You don't want to think every month like, oh my god, I'm still this far away from 10 grand. How am I going to get there? Do I need to just pull it off all my credit cards and then just pay those back? That way the money is actually sitting in there? Hell no, you do not want to do that. You will get killed by that interest. This is the way you want to frame that in your mind. You want to be like, okay, I have a long-term, maybe 24-month goal here to get 10 grand in the bank, and adjust it for whatever it is for your situation. This is just a for instance. But you want to be like, okay, so if every month I can save $500, I'm on a good path. And if you can only save 100, save damn 100, but stick to it and commit and then double down. If in 1 month you saved 100 and you still feel like, I still have quite a bit of disposable income, ratchet it up. Next month, do $110. All right. What you don't want to do is just move 10 grand around when you don't have the ability to really do that faithfully all the time. You see what I mean? Then it's gonna freak you out. Like you get step by step, you get ahead, right? And that's how you keep the elephant from freaking out. And speaking of elephants, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. You have to seduce the elephant in your mind. Right? Which is another topic I actually have on here. Why seduction beats conquering 10 out of 10 times. You are not going to conquer an elephant, man. You try to do that, it'll just like throw you around, it'll trample you. You don't want an elephant freaking out near you. You can even be somewhere safe, and that will be scary to you. Like, you can see it on TV, an elephant freaking out, and it will scare you probably like you were there. Okay, so you gotta seduce, for sure, the elephant side of your brain, because it's the one that ultimately has control, because you will get exhausted. And the elephant part of your brain is most of the older parts that have been there even longer than human beings have been a thing. So, like your reptilian brain and whatnot. So you gotta seduce that thing. You don't want to make sudden movements around these creatures that only have that like central nervous system without the cerebral cortex and all that old world brain, because that thing is fast. Something freaks it out and they react immediately by trampling you, or I don't know, like impaling you with their tusks or something. That's how you don't want to be the person that does that. And for your own brain, you don't want to do things that freak your own brain out, because it will do that. It will hurt you. You'll get depressed. You'll get anxious. You'll get like you'll have like an avoidant kind of style or approach to things. You ever see those people? I'm sure this has happened to you. Somebody who has tried to do whatever in their life. They're like, yeah, man, I tried to go to college or whatever. I got 1D or something like that, and then that just screwed them up for life. Or they tried talking to some girl that they liked, or they tried investing, and hey, the thing they invested in, it lost all its money, and then that scarred them for life, and now they will never touch it again. Sometimes that's good. You don't want to, I don't know, put your hand in fire and it burn the shit out of you, and then your elephant part of your brain not react to that with avoidance. You don't want that to happen. Be like, oh damn, that hurt, but hey, I'm willing to try it again. No, that's a good thing that you get that avoidance for that. Things that hurt, you don't want to do it again. But things like investing or like approaching people or self-help or maybe college or whatever that you may very well fail at a few times, you don't want to fail so hard that it freaks the elephant out and you get that avoidance and you never want to try again. Okay, that's why step by step we get ahead. You do not want to skip steps. You want to shrink the change so the change doesn't look so damn big. Right? They say like, whatever, if you want to make $10,000 or you want $10,000 in your savings account, like I was saying, you don't need to look at it like, God, where am I going to get $10,000? You look at it and think like, okay, over 24 months, I could put maybe $500 a month in there. After 20 months at 500, you'll be at 10,000. So after 24, for sure, you can reach 10,000, even if some things happen here and there. That's how you shrink that change down. I talk about that in this book. So this is a very, like I said, this is a longer video because this is a very large topic. Like the whole book, they wrote a whole book on this topic. And there are many overlapping things. Remember, writer is the analytical part of your mind, the part that you interact with things on a regular basis. When you think about something, that's the writer, for the most part. When you make a plan, that's the writer. When you're like, okay, we need to do this to prevent this from happening later, or so that we're prepared for this, or whatever. All of those things, that's the writer. When you're doing math problems, that's the writer. When you're, wanting a hot fudge sundae, that's elephant. If you're wanting to eat, period, that's pretty much an elephant thing. If you're wanting to, I don't know, find somebody, if you're what you want to find somebody to reproduce with or to just simply have sex with, those are elephant things, elephant drives. If you're afraid of speaking in public or to people, approaching anybody, that public speaking, stage fright, those are elephant things. All right, those emotions, and a lot of them, there's good things and bad things when it comes to both of these. But remember, the writer is easily exhausted because it takes a lot more energy to power the writer side of your brain than to let your elephant side, which works on like autopilot a lot. It's instinctual. You don't have to think about it. It's so easy. That's another reason why habits, especially bad ones, are so easy to do. Is because it takes no energy to do them pretty much. You're just running a script over and over. But new scripts have to be integrated. Like when I was talking about all of your neurons, how they'll grow together and form these pathways. So that data can travel across them on different paths, and sometimes faster, and reach different experiences and memories and different, just all of these things. And over time, with good habits, you'll get more of those meshing like that, and it'll be easier and easier and easier to follow your good habits because of that. And it also works for the bad stuff. You're drinking too much. If you're going out every single night, or you're around a bunch of friends that always want to drink, or you work in a distillery or something, and you're around it all the time, your environment will start crafting those neurons together just by the very nature of you being there. It just rubs off on you like that. So that's why it's important to make sure that you're in a good environment too. The environment is one of the most powerful forces when we're talking about habits and changing things, because they say it's weird. They say when people vote, for example, and there's an issue on the table, like, hey, all these people, everybody in favor of giving more money to our school systems versus everyone in favor of doing something else with that money. If they vote in a school, they are more likely to vote in favor of a school system. It doesn't even have to be the school that's receiving the money or anything like that. This is how powerful the environment is. It literally has that subconscious effect. And by the way, when you hear subconscious, that's elephant stuff, if I didn't mention it already, because subconscious is that's below your conscious awareness. It's just getting run as a script. So getting out of your environment, you don't want to be in the environment. If you're trying to quit smoking, you don't want to be in the environment to where all of your friends are taking 6 smoke breaks a day, because, okay, now everyone went outside to take their smoke breaks. You're the only one standing in the office. You don't want to be doing that, and you also don't want to be the person who doesn't take advantage of the little 5-minute breaks throughout the day that everyone else gets. You got to keep working if you're not going to go out there and smoke with the rest of them. Do you see what I mean? So as long as you're in that environment, the peer pressure happens, even if no one's coming to you and be like, hey man, yeah, come out and light up with us real quick, or whatever it is. Even if that's not what's happening, like, people are actively pressuring you, the environment will just do it. So careful about your environment, right? It's the same thing with anything else. You hang out with a bunch of people who, I don't know, who work out at the gym a lot, you'll start getting more motivation out of nowhere to go, because it's contagious like that. That peer pressure happens. People think peer pressure is just like your peers coming up to you and be like, hey man, you're not doing this, you're not cool, like middle school shit. That's not the only thing. Peer pressure can be done accidentally or incidentally, because it's what's around you. Okay, there's a lot of good, not just research, but quotes even on financially, you're the average of your 5 closest friends or something like that. Be careful who you're spending time around. A lot of people don't like to hear the message, you probably need to upgrade your friends. And that doesn't mean you have to leave them completely, but if all your friends are spending money all the damn time, and you're trying not to be that person anymore, you will almost never be able to break out of it if you're around it all the time. That is just the reality of what's going on, because that environment is seductive to the elephant. It just brings it out easily, and it's a lullaby for the rider. It puts him to sleep, man. That environment can put the rider to sleep easily, and the elephant loves that. Elephant's like, hell yeah, man! Now we can just do anything. Let's eat, drink, and party, right? And so be careful about the environment. All right. So, anyways, this is what we got to do to switch, to change. We make changes by making change easy, by shrinking it down, by not doing that cold turkey. Because remember what I said, cold turkey is 10 times more likely to make it much harder rather than make things easy. Don't listen to anyone that's like, oh, you're not willing to commit, you're not going to get rid of your, I don't know, your vape, or you're not going to get rid of your credit card or something. You don't always have to just get rid of it. All right? It's step by step you get ahead and do a little bit better every day. Just like I said, you don't want to be that guy who's trying to lift 500 pounds right in the beginning. Some people never need to lift 500 pounds. Actually, that's probably most people. So you don't want to just bite off more than you can chew right in the beginning, because you eat that elephant one bite at a time. You try to eat the whole thing at once, you're gonna kill yourself with the amount of effort that'll cost you. All right. So remember, shrink the change down step by step. Change up the environment. Direct that rider also. Don't give them 30 flavors of ice cream when 8 will do, or something like that. You don't want to be one of the reasons people don't like going to the gym is like, oh, what do I do? I don't know. Well, you don't want to start with doing 15 machines the first time, probably. And if you do, you don't want to start with a bunch of weight, like your max on all of them. You probably want to do 2 or 3 machines, learn it well, then start gradually adding weight. Right? You don't want to just go in there and just do everything. That's cold turkey. That's committing in a cold turkey way. And you want to do that because that freaks the elephant out. And he's like, hell no. And then when you fail, it creates a stain upon your brain. And it's like, no, we never want to do that again. All right. So anyways, thank you everybody so much for being here, and have a beautiful rest of your day.